Greetings, everybody. Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another vinyl record video, feeling a little bit more musically obsessed than usual. Why, you might ask? Well, you see in the frame with me, we got Chris Propfe, musically freaking obsessed.
What's up? How's it going, Mike?
Greetings. Doing well. What about yourself?
Doing good. This is great because, like, I watch your videos, of course, and now we're actually talking live. So this is great. Interacting. So this will be fun.
It most certainly is. And you and
I
I
have a question for you. Can I call you Metal Mike tonight?
If you'd like to, for tonight only. Yes.
Metal Mike. All right.
Okay. Yeah, that works because as you can tell by the title of the video, there will be this is metal related, this video. But before we get into that, it's interesting because not many people have as diverse of a musical taste as me, even for the people who love music like the vinyl community. But Chris, you are just as musically diverse as me.
Yep.
Which we've learned really quickly. And I don't know if you've ever heard me say that in any of my other videos, so I figured I'd mention it while you were here now.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like I said, I watch your videos and I know that you're really into, the traditional country. But yeah, like even before this started, you and I were just talking about Britney Spears. And you've shown your prog stuff that you have, and so definitely, you're into a lot of different stuff, as am I.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting to see someone wearing, say, an Iron Maiden shirt and talking about Broadway.
Hey, that's who I am. Yeah,
that's who I am too. It's no one else like that does it. So
here's what and people have asked me, how can you listen to all these different styles of music? And I think, I went through different phases as I was growing up. I went through my country phase, and I went through my alternative rock phase, and I went through the Broadway phase. The problem is not the problem, but the thing is they weren't phases. They stuck with me. So, I kind of took what I liked from each genre and kept it. So I don't know. I just appreciate everything. The only type of music that I don't have a lot of is like bebop type stuff, or I don't really have a lot of gospel, or not even a lot of R&B or soul type stuff. So I think that those areas of music is probably where I'm lacking. The blues as well.
Yeah, blues is my biggest lacking point probably at this point.
But everything else, and the other type of music I really am not into much is classical. I appreciate classical music for what it is, but I don't go out and seek classical music. I enjoy listening to it, but I don't really have any in my collection. So
yeah, me and Steve Carlson are probably the only people who can nerd out about classical music.
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate it, but I don't really put it on that often. So
yeah, if I see something out in the wild, I'll buy it, but there are very few things I'm going out of my way to try to find with it. It's usually like, Chopin and Bach are two of my favorite composers. So I'm like, If I see something like that, I'll grab that. But overall, it is what I have. I have a handful of stuff that I've either been given or inherited for the most part in regards to my classical collection. I'm not sure if actually I've bought any classical stuff. Yeah. Orchestral, yes, but classical, not really.
Yeah, I think I have like 3 classical CDs, but now jazz, on the other hand, I love me some jazz. But
I'm still working on my jazz, but
yeah. But we're here to talk about metal, Mike.
We most certainly are. So me and Chris, as you know, have quite a diverse taste in music, and one of the things that I don't hear a lot of talk about in the VC other than like Metal Mickey or Darcy 6 Strings 9 Lives. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those 2 channels, but really rather than them, I don't see a lot of people talking about metal music rather than here and there. So I thought I want to do a collab video with Chris. Let's talk about metal. So we both chose 5 metal albums that have some sort of importance, whether it be personally or just in the genre in general. And I actually have an honorable mention because it's one of my newest, actually it is my newest metal acquisition, and I just have to show it off because it's so good.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned honorable mention, because I picked a few honorable mentions too, because you want 5, right? You wanted 5. Yeah.
Okay, well then I don't feel quite as bad as about choosing one. I should have grabbed the part 1 of this album then too, but I'll show my honorable mention first.
All right.
Because then I guess we could do our honorable mentions, and then we can go into the real thing. So this is one of my 2 most recent, and part 1 of this album is the other one I got. So this is a metal band from Germany,
Oh,
and as we both know, good metal comes from Germany. It's from other places too, like England and all that, but Germany,
the suspense is killing me.
you don't go wrong. Oh, I'm sure. So this is a album that came out. And what year did this come out? Oh, it only says 2006, the reissue year. Okay, so it pretty much came out in the late 80s.
Right.
We got Halloween.
Oh yeah, Halloween. Love that album.
This is Keeper of the
That's
Keys
part two.
Yeah, this is part two. Part one is my second earliest, newest acquisition, but I decided to pull out part two because this has one of my favorite Halloween songs on it. Dr. Steen, even
Yeah.
though it's a stereotypical hit for them, it just puts me in a great mood. And this is an expanded edition, so it has bonus tracks like B-sides from the Dr. Steen EP, and it also has some stuff that was released in the Treasure box set that they
Yep.
released in the 90s.
Yeah.
And Halloween.
Dude, I love Halloween.
Yeah, I'm still getting into them. I got this, and they're part one of the Keeper of the Seven Keys, and I am working my way through streaming on not Discogs. You don't stream on Discogs, Spotify. But
well, their lead singer, Michael Kiske, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
yeah,
His range is phenomenal. And I should go pull it out later on. I have their latest album where they have both their singers on it.
oh,
Michael
wow.
Kiske and their latest singer, I forget what his name is. So they go back and forth singing songs from the Halloween catalog. It's really cool.
Oh wow, yeah, that does sound cool. And
I was not expecting you to pull that album out. That's classic right there.
yeah, what's really cool about this is, and actually, I had to do research because I don't know if you know this or the VC knows this, but you're going to find out now. Iron Maiden is my favorite metal band.
Sweet.
And I heard this, and I was like, I had to look up who the lead singer was because I could have swore it was Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah.
Very similar vocal quality wise, but
yeah, they both have that operatic style to their voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Kiske, man, he does not mess around. That guy can sing.
Yeah. And the inside of this looks kind of cool too. This is what the original back cover of the album looked like, and in the CD.
Now, I just want to say that I was listening to that album when I was like 13, 14 years old. Woo! I'm showing my age.
I just discovered this. Actually, I discovered Halloween many years ago, but I could never remember the name of the band. And I just Googled Halloween band because I was like, it's similar. And I found who it is this past spring semester. I don't know why I was thinking about it in the middle of class one day while we still had in-class classes. But I was in the middle of class. I'm looking up Halloween. Then I blasted part one on the way back home from school that night. But,
all good.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Well, I'm telling you right now, Metal Mike, you are setting the bar high. I mean,
that's scary me a little bit.
When Halloween is an honorable mention, where are we going to go from there? That's the question right there.
I don't know. I'm curious if you're on a roll mention.
So is it my turn? All right. So I guess we're showing CDs and vinyl tonight, right?
And I actually pulled out 2 cassettes too.
Oh, cassettes too. Yeah, I didn't pull out. I have a bunch of metal cassettes. I didn't pull out the metal cassettes. So before I show stuff, I just want to let people know that I'm going to show some CDs and some vinyl.
Yeah, but I have all 3. So.
All right. Well, my honorable mention is one of the big 4 bands.
Okay.
Anthrax. And this album is amazing. Most people, when they think of Anthrax, they think about their album Among the Living, which I can see why. I mean, you've got songs in there like Indians, which is one of my favorite Anthrax songs, Caught in a Mosh, Skeletons in the Closet. But this album, this was the one that followed, State of Euphoria. This came out in 88. I actually go to this album more than Among the Living, and I think the reason is because it's not overplayed. Among the Living, there's so many hits on that album that you just hear those songs all the time. But on this album, there's so many like more deeper cuts on here, and it's still the same quality as that other album. Okay. I don't know. Have you ever heard this album before?
You know, the only Anthrax album I've heard is For the Kings or We the Kings that came out in like.
Oh yeah.
Anthrax is one of those metal bands that very similar to Annihilator and all these other ones are ones that I'm just now starting to
Yeah.
branch out into.
Well,
And
I'm telling you right now, I would start with either. Well, you know what? Start with Among the Living, and then this album is kick butt, and then the one that followed this, it's called Persistence of Time. That's also awesome. And then you can even go back to their album Spreading the Disease, which is great too.
okay,
But
yeah,
yeah,
I've been
this is an honorable mention for me.
wow, yeah, nice. I've been wanting to check them out. I'm sure I know the songs if I heard them, the classics,
Yeah.
but by name I couldn't.
Well, we were talking about classical music before. The first track on here is called Be All End All, and it
Okay.
starts with this classical intro, and I can't remember the instrument, but it brings about the melody right away in a classical sense, and then it kicks in with the metal. So definitely check out the song Be All End All. It's really cool.
Okay.
Really good stuff. So this is crazy, man. Our honorable mentions are Halloween and Anthrax. I mean, those are great bands.
Yeah.
How many honorable mentions do you have?
I only had one. I only brought
All
out
right. Well, you know what? I'll save my. I have two other ones, and if we have time later on, I'll show those other two.
we'll
But
make
let's get into the meat and potatoes here.
okay.
Who wants to go first?
You're the guest. I'll let you go first.
All right. And tonight's drink of choice is diet soda.
Water.
Water. That's the more healthy choice. All right. So you asked me to pick 5 metal albums that sort of have been an influence to me, and albums that I keep going back to. And this actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, because as I'm looking through stuff, I'm like, yeah, that has to be in the list. That has to be in the list. That has to be in the list. The first one is Slayer, and this is their album South of Heaven.
Okay.
This happens to be, well, this is a re-release on American Recordings.
Okay.
And this album is my favorite Slayer album. This is the one that followed the album Rain and Blood.
Right.
And Rain and Blood was killer. My thing with Rain and Blood, though, is that it just pummels you from start to finish, and there's no
Breathing room.
yeah, you can't like it's hitting you and you're on the ground and you can't get up. South of Heaven, there's a little bit more diversity in this album. This album came out in 1988, the same year as that other Anthrax album that I showed. I mean, this is to me like a greatest hits of Slayer. I mean, you've got South of Heaven, which is killer. It's got this creepy intro on guitar, Silent Scream, thrash masterpiece, Live Undead, Behind the Crooked Cross, Mandatory Suicide. Side 2, it gets even better. There's a song called Ghosts of War, which is like an underrated Slayer song. Read Between the Lies, which is probably top 5 Slayer for me. Okay. Cleanse the Soul. They do a cover of a Judas Priest song on here called Dissident Aggressor. And then it ends with Spill the Blood. I mean, this album from top to bottom is just quintessential metal. This is like, for me, like if somebody wanted to know, hey, what does heavy metal sound like? I would give them a copy of this album. This is produced by Rick Rubin.
Okay.
So talk about a guy who is diverse. Rick Rubin produced Johnny Cash albums.
Yeah, exactly.
And Beastie Boys albums. So yeah, this had to be in the list. I love Slayer, and I saw Slayer live, which was amazing. But yeah, I mean, this had to be in the list. This is definitely the one Slayer album I always go back to. I have everything that they released, but this is the one that I just love. So yeah,
they're a group that I'm still trying to get on physical media, but of what I've heard, I've enjoyed that one. Is one of the albums I haven't heard in its entirety. I've heard most of that album, but I haven't heard it all. The only full-length albums I've heard by Slayer are Show No Mercy, their debut, and Hell Awaits. But I've liked everything I've heard by Slayer. It's classic.
What's interesting about Slayer is like those first couple albums you were just talking about, like Show No Mercy, Hell Awaits. The production on those albums was very raw.
Yes.
And you know, by the time Rain and Blood came around, I think Rain and Blood was the first one that Rick Rubin produced. And their sound got like crisper and clearer and just really like in your face.
Yeah.
So for me, it took me a little bit of time to get into those early albums because they sound a little bit more rough to me. But I've grown to like those early albums now. They're good.
It's kind of like it with Megadeth. You're listening to like say Peace Sells It, but who's buying a Rust in Peace, and then you
Yeah.
hear Killing Is My Business. You know.
Right. Right. Same thing. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my first choice.
All right, let's see.
I am so interested to see what you're going to pull out here.
Well, this one is kind of a lot of these are fairly generic, but you know they're still good. And actually, this one is something that when I heard it on vinyl for the first time, because I had this on CD first,
Yeah.
hearing it on vinyl surprised me. And I'll explain why in a moment. This album actually just had its 40th anniversary. Can you guess what potential album that might be?
40th anniversary. Um, is it a Sabbath album?
It is not.
Maiden? Oh, Priest. Okay. Well, sweet. I did not pull that album tonight.
I got British Steel now.
That's a great album.
Yes, it most certainly is. I love this way they reissued these CDs because they have the album cover on them.
Yep. Yep.
It's kind of cool, and it has like the metal bolts around it. And all of this series, I don't have all of them, but they have this fire on the side, and then it has a letter, each letter spelling Judas Priest. And if you have them all, it spells Judas Priest with flames and all that. And then it has British Steel on here. But on top of this being, at least the CD version being remastered and having 2 bonus tracks, the live version of Grinder and a song called Red, White, and Blue.
Yep.
Something I did not know is that the CD version is not the traditional track order for this album. But this I always knew. So I'm used to the track order, the beginning of this album going from Rapid Fire into Metal Gods and then Breaking the Law.
Yeah.
However, the vinyl version is Breaking the Law, Rapid Fire, Metal Gods.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't realize that. Is that an 80s pressing of that album?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. And then the rest of the album is in the normal track order for the most part, to my quick glance.
That's a killer Judas Priest album. And you can't go wrong with that.
No, not really. You know, the only arguably better album, but really I think it's just as good in my opinion, is Screaming for Vengeance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Screaming for Vengeance is killer.
What's that?
Screaming for Vengeance is killer.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the tracks on British Steel? Because there's one on there I'm forgetting that, but I think it's one of my.
Yeah. We got Breaking the Law, Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Grinder, United, Living After Midnight, Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise, The Rage, and Stealer.
The Rage. That song is awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's a deep cut right there. I saw Priest a couple years ago with Deep Purple.
That must have been a killer show.
For their Priest came out with an album called Firepower a couple years ago.
One of the best.
It's amazing. Dude, that's a great pull right there. British Steel. Awesome.
Yeah, there's not much that can't be said about that. We all know that one.
No, it's killer. All right, we ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, so I'm going to pull out the Mighty Black Sabbath.
Okay.
But, well, these are favorite albums, so obviously this is my favorite Black Sabbath album. I've actually done videos about this album. This is their album, Sabotage. Now, do not get thrown off by the cover, because the cover is kind of freaky. I mean, you got Ozzy in some, like, kimono thing, and, you know, the other guys are, like, dressed in, like, their Sunday best. It's just it's the strangest cover. This happens to be in on the NEMS label. So
more impressive.
Very cool. This album was one of the first metal albums that I ever bought, because before I got into metal, I was listening to Bon Jovi, who I like Bon Jovi, but I felt like that was like my gateway into metal, because they were like a hard rock band, but then I wanted something heavier. So I randomly picked this album up. This came out in 70 something. Oh no, 1980 actually. Um, and I put it on, and it blew me away. Like every song in here is amazing. Hole in the Sky is awesome. Don't Start Too Late is like a little mini instrumental. Then you've got the classic Symptom of the Universe.
Mm.
And for anybody who's a Sabbath fan, they're probably going to cite that as one of their favorite songs. That you've got some proggy stuff on here. This is when Sabbath started to get a little proggy.
Mhm.
This album and the album that the two albums that followed, you got Technical Ecstasy as well, and Never Say Die. Even the album before this, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, they started to get a little bit more proggy, which is a good thing. So you've got some longer songs on here like Megalomania. You've got a choir on this album in the song Superstar. You've got like a pop friendly type song, Am I Going Insane? You've got a heavy proggy song called The Writ. So there's a little bit of everything on here. You've got metal, you've got some huge choirs singing, you've got some little guitar instrumentals, proggy elements, pop elements. So I like it because they kind of branched out from their, doom side.
Yeah.
Again, nothing against. I love I love Sabbath. I love Paranoid. I love Master of Reality. I love Volume 4. I love all those classic Sabbath albums. I just tend to go to Sabotage all the time.
It's a good one.
And it's an awesome metal album.
Now you said it's on NEMS. Is that a foreign pressing?
Yeah, it's a UK pressing. Yep. Yeah, and I think I got it off of Discogs. It's in beautiful shape too. I wanted to get kind of an earlier pressing of it, because it is one of my favorite albums. So, yeah, and even the cover is like a little flimsy.
Okay. Oh yeah, they were a little bit flimsier in the UK.
Yeah. Sometimes those UK pressings can, the earlier albums that you can have like a flimsy cover. I've got a Donovan. Talk about diversity. I've got a Donovan album. I love Donovan too. We should do a video about Donovan one time.
That'd be cool.
But I forget what album it is, but it's kind of a flimsy cover too. Like I feel like when I touch it, it's gonna like break apart. But yeah. So I would say, yeah, for me, this is my favorite Sabbath album. Sabotage. Yeah.
Good one. Let's see. Shall I go classic thrash? No, I'll go this. I'll go this route. I'll do one with one of the cassettes involved. We are going Somewhere in Time is your favorite Maiden album.
You remembered that. That was good.
Yet mine is Peace of Mind.
Hey, that's another great choice. Revelations is on there.
Yes, it is. However, my favorite Maiden tune of all time is Flight of Vicarious.
Yep.
That's on here. Now, I would have been very disappointed if that song didn't show up in your Flight video you did the other day. I think it was a contest entry you did.
Yeah. I had to put Flight of Icarus on there. It's a great song.
And it's cool. It has the XDR and it has a Capitol label on there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get to see what the cassettes look like, so I like to show. That's kind of what the cassette looks like.
I always love cassettes. I love folding them out.
Oh, yeah.
It was always kind of a pain in the butt to try to put it back together, though.
Oh, it most certainly is. And, the one thing I love about records is that you're actually able to read the lyrics. The lyrics are actually not bad on this cassette, but on some CDs, the lyrics are near damn impossible to read.
Yeah. That's a great album, man.
Oh, this is, as I said, is my favorite. And, one of Maiden's staple tunes comes from this one, The Trooper.
Yeah. Is To Tame a Land on that?
To Name a Land? No. Yes, it is. It's the final track.
That song rips. That's a great song.
It does. And Peace of Mind, they're literally giving you a peace of mind.
Yeah.
On top of like a platter with like corn and all this stuff. It was so weird. And then we got The Trooper right there. And a live image because this is a repress from the 90s. So it has bonus photos and all that stuff, and it's the enhanced CD that you get bonus material on the computer if you put it in, which I've actually never looked at. Probably should. And what's cool about this is just like with the Judas Priest one, they have on the spine they have the title of the band, the name of the album, but then when they're all lined up, the Iron Maiden's debut album cover, that Eddie makes an image. with all of them. I unfortunately don't have all of them yet, but I'm telling
That's
you,
cool.
when Eagles Dare is one of those perfect.
Oh, that's killer too. Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with this album, but it is my favorite Maiden album, so I am biased.
Well, I wanted to thank you for not making Number of the Beast your favorite Maiden album. So many people are like, yeah, my favorite Iron Maiden album is Number of the Beast. And again, nothing against Number of the Beast, but there are better Maiden albums than that album.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There was a time where the debut album and Number of the Beast were my go-to albums when I first started off, as I guess most people, I guess that's the case for. But
Yeah.
as I progressed through, Peace of Mind, Brave New World, and Somewhere in Time are probably my top three
Yeah.
at this point. Killers.
My second favorite. Well, my second favorite album is Killers, actually.
Yeah, that
Paul Di'Anno on vocals. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my dad had Killers on cassette actually when he was younger.
That's a great album. I actually have I think the record company is called Castle. Castle back in must have been the 2000s. They came out with some pressings of Maiden albums. They were 2 CD sets.
Okay.
And they were the Castle remasters. Like if you search on eBay, you'll find them. What was cool is the second disc had bonus tracks on it, where
Okay.
Maiden was doing cover songs and some live versions of early stuff. So I've got actually all their releases, but I have the 2 CD Castle versions.
Oh,
So you should seek out the Castle version of Peace of Mind and see
yeah.
if you can find it, because it's got some bonus stuff on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna write a note of that.
Yeah, if you search like Iron Maiden Castle remaster, it'll come up. I think they can be a little pricey though, but dude, that's a great choice.
I guess it's kind of similar to what Queen did in 2011 with the CD reissues with the original album and the outtakes of like live BBC and live performances. I guess it's a similar concept.
Yeah. Seek it out though, man. That's some good stuff.
Oh yes.
All right, we ready for my number 3?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have this on CD, and I want to get it on vinyl, but I want an OG copy of it. Metallica, Ride the Lightning.
That is the only Metallica album of the original 4 albums that I'm missing because I cannot find an original, and I'm holding off for an original.
This album originally came out on a label called Megaforce, and on the album, it had a silver label.
Oh yes.
That said Megaforce. I think I had that freaking album as a kid, and I got rid of it. I mean, as a kid, you don't think, oh, look, you don't think Metallica albums are going to be worth anything.
No.
But now, like trying to find the Megaforce label is really tough, because then it was repressed on Elektra. This is they pressed it on Elektra. But I'm searching. I'd like to get this on vinyl, but I want the silver Megaforce label.
I understand.
So, I told you before about Sabbath. I didn't tell you I bought both of these albums on the same day.
Okay.
So this is my intro to metal. Like, you can't get much better than that, though.
Yeah.
This Metallica album, still to this day, just gets me every single time. It opens up with like my favorite Metallica song, Fight Fire with Fire, which is like total thrash.
Oh yeah.
You've got Ride the Lightning on here. You've got For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh yeah. The big hit from it.
Yeah, Fade to Black. You got a couple deeper cuts on here, which are really good. Trapped Under Ice is awesome. Escape is awesome. You've got Creeping Death.
Oh yes.
And The Call of Cthulhu, which is a great instrumental. This album, I mentioned this the other day, and I know it's hard to see, but their original bassist, Cliff Burton, there's this picture of him. His skin is it looks discolored. He looks like he's the Walking Dead. And as a kid, I looked at that. I'm like, that scared the crap out of me. So I was listening to the music, and I'm looking at this guy who looks like he's actually dead playing the bass. And it made an impression on me. And to this day, this is my favorite Metallica album.
It's funny because after you mentioned that the other day in your video, I had to pull out, because I had that exact same CD pressing of that album. I had to go look for myself, and I was like, wow, he's so white in that photo.
Dude, this came out in 84. I was 10 years old when this came out.
Wow. Yeah.
Awesome.
Believe it or not, that is my favorite Metallica album. However, that is not the Metallica album I chose in my list, because I have sentimental value to the one that I chose, which is why I chose that one. But that one is my number 1 Metallica album.
Yeah, and when I think about Metallica, because I'm going to do a video on Metallica. I'm not going to tell anybody what my video idea is going to be because I want it to be a surprise.
Right.
But when you think about Metallica, their first album was Kill 'Em All, which
Hmm.
was sort of I like it, but it's very rough,
Yes.
sort of like the early Slayer stuff.
Hmm.
Then they made a huge jump with Ride the Lightning, and then after that, they made a even bigger jump with Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. And then from there, it's sort of for me went a little bit downhill. Not to say that there wasn't good stuff after that, but for me, I think and Justice for All was like
A peak.
the top tier of Metallica. And then after that, the Black Album was good, but it was a little bit of a letdown. I remember when that album came out. It's still a great album, but going from Injustice for All to the Black Album was a little bit of a letdown. But yeah, I tend to always go back to Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, that's my general that and the one I'm going to be showing is my go-to. And Creeping Death is one of my favorite Metallica album. I mean, Metallica songs.
That's a great song. Yeah.
Trapped Under Ice.
So yeah.
Trapped Under Ice, I was actually introduced to from Guitar Hero before I even had Metallica
Oh,
in my.
that's on Guitar Hero. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a well-known song, but I mean, rather than if you had Guitar Hero, but or you're
And I
like
think I've read somewhere that James Hetfield does not like the song "Escape" that's on here. I
interesting.
think I read that somewhere,
Oh,
and I can't remember the reason why, but I like the song. I think it's good. You know?
I think that's just, in the world of metal music, that's pretty much a perfect album, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So
And it's
yeah,
interesting.
that's number what? That's number 3 for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Many people don't consider because you went off to talk about Injustice for All and the Black Album. It's interesting because many people think that they peaked after Master of Puppets due to the fact that Cliff Burton died in a whole situation with the whole bass situation not being heard in
Yeah,
Injustice for All. But Injustice for All was my second Metallica album I ever heard. So for me, I have it because it was still my introduction. I was like, I was still young. I was just starting to learn how to play guitar. I was like, whoa, those are some sick guitar solos. But like, that's
I
kind of
remember the first time I heard "Injustice for All." I was on the bus. I had my Walkman, and my friend lent me the tape. I put the cassette in. Now, this is the first time I ever heard this album. I was familiar with Metallica before that. I had never heard anything as heavy as Injustice for All was. The tone on those guitars, that changed the game. That album changed the game.
oh
The
yeah,
songs were longer. They were more proggy actually on that album. And
yes,
then you had the song One, which
everyone knows.
yeah, I mean, my people who don't know who Metallica is still know that song. It's
Yeah,
just that song, and that the video was amazing for that song,
yeah,
and yeah, I just feel like that was like their creative peak. But the thing was, they couldn't take metal any further than that, though. Like they went as fast as you could. Their songs were as long as they could be. They needed a change, so I can see why they did the Black Album,
yeah,
but something changed after Injustice for All. They weren't the same Metallica after that, and I don't really think that they've ever been there again.
yeah. I guess closest for me for recovering or being similar in nature to that, if we're talking to heaviness wise, State Anger, even though that's not one of the best albums they've done, but
Yeah,
on regards to better Metallica albums, not to crap on the Saint Anger, but I do enjoy the album, but I prefer this one, Death Magnetic, because
yeah,
that one, even though after I started taking my music classes when I first started college, Death Magnetic was my favorite Metallica album when it first
yeah,
came out. That's the only Metallica album, I guess,
right,
if you consider Lulu or whatever the crap that is.
yeah,
You want to consider that, but Injustice or yeah, I remember Injustice for All coming out about 10 some years before I was born.
yeah,
The Death Magnetic, I remember that coming out and being like, yeah, that's the heavy Metallica that I'm used to because
yeah.
I knew Load, Reload, and the Black Album, but it wasn't what I at that time was really going for. So that kind of brought it back, and I really enjoyed hearing another part to the Unforgiven because it has the Unforgiven 3 on it.
Yeah, and I like the CD of that because it's got a cool booklet that
Oh yeah, it was
It's almost
awesome.
like a 3D booklet. It's really cool. I'm just looking up Saint Anger on my phone because I'm trying. I can't remember the name of the song, but it's it's an awesome song, and I think I did it when I. It's in my top 10 Metallica. I just can't remember the name of it.
Would it?
Oh, the Unnamed Feeling.
Oh, the unnamed feeling. Okay.
That song, I'm telling you right now, it's buried in Saint Anger, but if that song would have been better produced and edited just a little bit, it could have been a huge Metallica song because it's
Probably.
freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think the big hit from that one was a combination of Some Kind of Monster and Frantic. I think those are.
Frantic, yeah, yeah. I like Frantic. Um, I don't know. I people hate that album because of Lars' drum sound on it.
Yeah,
It sounds like he's hitting a tin can,
it does.
but
But
I don't know. It's got some good qualities to it. You
yeah,
know,
and speaking of
not
songs
terrible.
you learned, I actually learned All Nightmare Long from Death Magnetic back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Death Magnetic is good. It's a good album.
well, since we're on the topic of Metallica, I might as well show my Metallica choice as my third choice.
Yeah, continue it. Continue. Ah,
Master
yes.
Puppets. Now I had the cassette. My dad had the cassette, but I didn't want to pull out the cassette for this one. So my dad
Yeah,
had the two metal albums my dad ever owned, or legit metal albums, were Killers and Master Puppets on cassette. He had
those
like
are great albums. Yeah.
those are not metal. Those are like more hair metal. But anyway, so this was the first album I ever heard by Metallica. I was I will always remember the first time I hear Battery, because Battery, it goes from the class. First of all, that's the opener for the track for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Which it starts off with classical guitar, nylon string, and then you go bum 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 bum, bum into the whole metal thing that you know Metallica for, and
Yeah.
it just smacks your face off. And for the longest time, I never noticed it. You'll probably notice it better on the vinyl record version. So the album's called Master of Puppets. I never took all these crosses to be like puppets or anything until I noticed all these strings. I don't know if you guys could see that in the camera, but there's a bunch of strings hanging on. And there's two hands. There's a hand in that corner and a hand in that corner. For the longest time, I never just noticed that in this album cover when I first started listening to this. And then one day I noticed that and I was just like, whoa, mind blown. But like,
Yeah. It's an awesome cover.
it is a fantastic cover. And
You're
no,
right about Battery, though. Battery is just a killer intro.
yeah. And it's similar to your Ride the Lightning one with the way the back of the CD is.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing really fancy inside. This is what the back cover of the vinyl record looks like, which I'll show shortly. And then the general Electra that was.
That's a great picture of Metallica inside, too. They're just young and hungry. Yeah.
Exactly.
Look at that.
And
They were ready to take the world by storm.
yeah. And this is actually a club pressing, the RCA club
Yeah. Yeah.
that they did. And, you know, I mean, of course, everybody knows Master of Puppets, too. That's a fantastic one. That's one of their biggest hits. Sanitarium is fantastic. I believe Orion is the one that's the instrumental from this album, which, you know, it's just killer. I bought the sheet music book for this album, tried learning it. I was way too inexperienced in 7th grade to try to be able to be playing this since it was my first year of playing guitar. But
Yeah.
I was eager, still am. I've learned how to play a Master of Puppets at this point, so I can play that. But, you know, you can't go wrong.
Isn't the thing that should not be on there too?
Yep.
That's a great song as well.
That Should Not Be is the third song on the album. It's great.
Disposable Heroes is killer. That whole album is great.
That's a closer, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you picked Master, I picked Ride the Lightning. Those are
Two of the best.
yeah, those are probably the two best albums by Metallica. I mean, I think most people go to Master of Puppets, and
Yeah.
I can see why. I can see why. I don't know. I just think there's a little bit. There's more of a. To me, there's a little bit more of an edge to Ride the Lightning.
I would
It's
agree.
sort of got this. Yeah, it just sort of has this youthful energy to it
Yes.
that comes out in the songs, and yeah. But again, nothing against Master of Puppets is amazing. It's a classic album.
Oh, yeah.
But very cool, man. All right, we ready for my number 4?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, you picked a Priest album. It's cool because you and I picked similar artists, but we picked different albums by those artists.
Yeah.
So you pick British Steel by Priest. I pick Sin After Sin.
Yeah.
This album is amazing. I love the cover, first of all.
Hmm.
You've got this like Colosseum looking like funeral thing going on here. You've got the classic Priest logo before they changed it.
And the original.
Yeah, I like that. And then you've got this chick hanging out down here.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
know.
know if anybody sees her. I think she's waiting for something to happen, but it's just a great cover. Oh, there's a skull there too.
Oh yeah. You know
But
what?
I mean,
When I
this
first
is
heard,
a repress of this album. Um, but I think it's on 180. But I mean, the songs on here. It opens up with Sinner, which they're still playing live to this day. They do Diamonds and Rust, which a lot of people don't know was originally a Joan Baez song.
that's what threw me off
And
when I first heard that album.
yeah, but they made it their own. It's awesome. This has one of my favorite Judas Priest songs on it, Starbreaker, which
Oh
is
yeah.
awesome. And I've talked about this album before. There's a song on here called The Last Rose of Summer, which is almost like folk metal. And Rob Halford, he's like, that guy can sing, like really, like legitimately sing. And I always tell people, listen to The Last Rose of Summer. You're going to hear how great his voice is. You've got Let Us Pray on here, Call for the Priest, Here Come the Tears. And this is the album where Dissident Aggressor comes off of. Remember I told you before Slayer covered that song, Dissident Aggressor, on South of
Yep.
Heaven? This is the album it came off of. So, you know, it's a dark album. It's heavy, but it's just classic Priest.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, you know what? I go to this album, but I also go to their first album, Rockarola. And a lot of people don't like the album Rockarola. I like it. It's sort of like a bluesy, folky folk metal album, sort of similar to the Scorpions' first album. The Scorpions had an album called Lonesome Crow, which is phenomenal. I kind of put Rockarola and Lonesome Crow in the same like category, but you know, when it's not Rockarola, it's Sin After Sin. This album is great.
Yeah.
So
I got that album almost a year ago in a record collection I bought from someone. That
yeah,
fantastic album.
have you heard the album Stained Class?
That is one I haven't heard by Priest
You
yet.
got to check that album out too. That's a really good album as well by Judas Priest.
I'm telling you, the amount of albums that I'm getting just from you alone that I need to hear within the past
Yeah.
couple weeks is crazy.
And the thing is, like, my favorite era of Priest is 1970s Priest.
Okay.
1980s Priest was good as well. I mean, in the 80s, you had Screaming for Vengeance, you had Breaking the Law, or not Breaking the Law, British Steel. I actually even like the album Turbo. I know a lot of people don't like that album, but it's got one of my favorite Judas Priest songs on it, Turbo Lover. And I know Turbo Lover for a lot of people is kind of a cheesy Priest song, but I dig it.
It's one of the better songs off that album.
Defenders of the Faith is another great album. That came out in the 80s too. So there's some really good 80s albums, but I tend to go to the 70s Priest. Like I love the album Stained Class. I love Sin After Sin. They did a great live album in Japan called Unleashed in the East.
Oh, that's great.
Which is awesome. You know, so I mentioned Rockarola. Yeah, so I tend to go to the 70s stuff.
Yeah. The you know, my main go-tos for Priest wise because they were my introductions, and I, you know, Priest, even no matter how much I love them, are ones that I haven't really delved much further into after because of how much I enjoyed these albums. But really, my introduction to Priest was Screaming for Vengeance, British Steel, Painkiller, and Point of Entry.
Forgot about Painkiller. Point of Entry is underrated. That's a good album.
Point of Entry is extremely underrated.
Solar Angels, Desert Plains is on that.
Yeah. That one's amazing. I never for the longest time didn't even know that the American cover was the alternate cover, but
yeah, I don't like the one with the computer paper that goes down like that. I like the
one better.
Yeah, what's the other one? It's like a bird or something, isn't it?
A plane, a bird, something like that. It looks like a wing. But
now is that the US cover or is that the alternate cover?
I believe the US cover is the alternate cover. I believe the winged one is the normal cover.
I like the winged one.
Okay, I like the one that looks like a highway kind of
Oh,
thing.
you
That
like that one too? Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, I like the winged one, but that's well, it makes sense though because that album has the song "Heading Out to the Highway" on it, so
that's
that's
what.
a perfect cover for them.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's see what I'll pull out next. I'll save
All
this.
right. Let's see
This,
what you got.
this one's a killer one. I'll save that for the end. All right. So this one is a band that was around for a while, and this is their most unique album of all their albums. This is an album that came out in 2004, and it's one that most people kind of disregard or ignore because it's so different compared to all other albums by this band. However, it was my introduction.
Hmm.
The only other song I knew rather than this album was a song called Tornado of Souls. I'm talking about the band Megadeth
Yeah. Okay.
and the album The System Has Failed.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Not many people like this album or even talk about this album or think it's worthwhile. But this on top of the song Tornado of Souls from Rust in Peace, and after this I quickly ranted Rust in Peace. Then I was this. And Blackmail the Universe, it starts off with an airplane going over, and then you just have this heavy Dave Mustaine riff. This is a heavy album. You know, what's unique about this one and how it's so different is because it's so heavy at times and also so light at times,
Hmm.
which is unlike anything else that Megadeth has done. Usually it's kind of mid lane in the heaviness of everything, and they're like Blackmail the Universe hits you in the face with the heavy guitar riff. They're talking about how there's a problem in the world, and then it goes into the song, and it's a political tune, Blackmail the Universe, quite frankly. But it's just talking about troubles in the world, and I can't even imagine what they would be writing nowadays if they
Oh
were
yeah.
if they were going for the political route. But yeah, this was great. There's a song on here called "Kick the Chair," which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I remember that song.
One of my favorite Megadeth tunes, "Of Mice and Men," is on here, which is that's one of the songs that literally is a mix between the heavy and the light, because the verses are some of the heaviest Megadeth stuff, and
Hmm.
then the choruses are very light and fluffy, for lack of a better way to put it, I guess. But it's just a killer album, and we have like a news reporter talking about that's a news reporter that I assume they're trying to perceive that is the intro to Blackmail the Universe, even though it's a female voice and that's showing a guy, but
Yep.
you know what we're going for. And then we have a cool rattlehead explosion happening in the background. And this CD looks very similar to the Halloween one I showed earlier, but with the yellow and all that.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
And yeah, I just think this is a Megadeth album that doesn't get much in the way of love, but really, really should.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know too much about that album. I have it, and I've probably spun it maybe a few times. I remember "Kick the Chair," but other than that, I'll have to pull that out again, though.
Yeah, this is probably my go-to.
Yeah.
For a metal fan and Megadeth fan, I guess that's kind of sacrilegious because like you
Yeah.
have Peace Cells and you have Countdown to Extinction, you have Rust in Peace, but this is, I guess because I just was introduced to this, that it kind of stuck.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where all these are going to with a lot of these choices, with the exception of Peace of Mind. Like all these were just ones I was introduced to these bands with. So
Well, that's the great thing about music is that um, everybody has their own opinion, which
oh
is
yeah,
great. And I think that causes us to reevaluate certain albums.
yeah,
Like with you saying to me that that's your go-to Megadeth album, that's telling me like, oh, Chris, you should probably go back and reevaluate and listen to that album because somebody else thinks it's really good.
yeah.
So I think that that's what's really cool is that if you respect somebody's opinion and they have something that differs from you, but it causes you to rethink something. So I'm definitely going to be listening to that album.
Fantastic. And it's, I mean, the same thing has happened for me with the VC. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I mean, this happened with you with this individual as well. I'm at 8 Vinyl Low with Cheap Trick.
Yeah,
I knew the album Jerry and Police, and I knew the album Heaven Tonight, and I knew their greatest hits album.
you knew more than I did.
And I knew their album Lap of Luxury, but that was it.
Yeah,
Until I met Emma, I didn't. First of all, she helped me rediscover what I already knew and enjoyed. But then I went in deeper, and then she sent me a couple of their albums, and then I'm just like, wow, this is fantastic. She sent me their debut album and at Budokan, and of
yeah,
course it went from there. And I saw that you got a copy of Dream Police on CD.
yeah. And I've told the story before. The only song I really knew by Cheap Trick was "The Flame." I think
Okay,
that was a big hit in the '80s.
yeah, that was
I
from
think I had Live at Budokan on CD. I think I played it once. It's not that I didn't like it. I just never really gave Cheap Trick a chance. And then Emma was like, Cheap Trick, Cheap Trick, Cheap Trick, Cheap Trick, Cheap Trick. I mean,
just
she
like
didn't
when you
send me any albums. She sent you albums. I didn't get anything from Emma. But I went out and bought Dream Police. I put it on. I'm like, holy crap, this is really good.
I mean, one of the very my dad did not have a lot of vinyl records as a kid. He had more CDs.
Yeah.
Um, but Dream Police was one of the few albums he had on vinyl record, and so I kind of was introduced with that, and then it kind of went from there.
It's a killer album. I bought the first Cheap Trick album.
Oh,
I like it. I think I like Dream Police better though. I don't know if that's like sacrilegious in the Cheap Trick.
for Emma it
Yeah.
would be, but for the Cheap Trick generally, I mean, I think that Dream Police is a stereotypical album to go to next to Heaven Tonight, but
Yeah. It's you know what it probably is, Mike. It's that I'm the casual Cheap Trick fan.
that's
So
what's doing it. But I
yeah,
really
so I think I probably go to Dream Police. I'm not like the hardcore Cheap Trick fan.
right. And but a song that you should really pay attention to with the debut album that you had recently got is a song called Taxman. Um,
Taxman.
yeah,
All right,
no, it's not. It's not a cover of the Beatles, I promise.
all right. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
that's
I like the first album, but for whatever reason, my ear went more towards Dream Police. But I don't know. Like I
nine,
said, I'm just getting into Cheap Trick, so that opinion might change.
right? And you got me into well, you got me now. I listened to the Black Flag album you recommended the other day. Lose a Nut, I believe it was called.
Loose Nut, yeah,
Yeah, Lose a Nut. I liked that. It was interesting because it was a combination of literally punk that they're known for and like 80s new wave into one is what I kind of
with
heard.
a little bit of heavy metal in there too.
Yeah, which I really liked. And I started listening to some of the Europe albums
Yeah,
today. I got through most of War on the 2015 album, War on
War
Kings.
King.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
that I really liked. Um,
And I'm new to those albums too. Like when I did that video, that was like I had just started listening to those newer Europe albums because I kind of lost interest in them after the Final Countdown,
as
and I
most,
didn't realize like all these other albums were freaking awesome.
yeah, like after your description, I added them all to my Amazon want
Yeah,
list or cart or whatever. I'm eventually
yeah,
gonna buy them. Started streaming some of them on Spotify, and by some of them, I mean I've only gotten to that one so far. And
yeah.
of course, I have the Final Countdown on CD, the remastered CD,
And that's a great album. It's a great album.
but
Yeah, but those newer albums are killer. I mean, they've got some Hammond B3 organ going on.
that's
Joey Tempest can still sing.
oh yeah, the one thing I noticed right away was the organs, like the
Yeah,
keys and all that stuff. They stood out to me because I was like not expecting that. I mean, and it was almost heavier too, which
they
was
got heavy. Yeah, they got heavy. So those
yes,
are great albums. Well, I'm glad I could turn you on to that stuff. Yeah, Black Flag. I mean, as you know, I talk about Black Flag all the time. They're a band from when I was a kid. I remember I had a bunch of friends who were skaters, and I was a wannabe skater. I can't even balance on a freaking skateboard. So I would watch them skate, but I would be listening to their music. So they were listening to Black Flag, the Dead Kennedys, the Circle Jerks, Bad Brains, Dead Milkmen, all those, punk bands. And I liked the music. I didn't like the skating. I liked the music. And Black Flag was one of those bands that jumped out at me because exactly from what you said, they brought in some metal, they brought in some punk, they brought in some new wave, they brought in a little bit of everything. And then you had Greg Ginn solo, and his solos are very jazz-like.
oh yeah, I like
Improvised and some really cool stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you dug that Black Flag.
I did. I look forward to checking out some other stuff in the near future.
Yeah, well, my favorite album by Black Flag is called In My Head.
Okay,
So, yeah, definitely check that one out.
I shall.
Are we ready for my fifth choice?
I think so.
Cool. All right. Well, you showed Maiden. Yes, you showed Peace of Mind.
Yes.
And you already kind of alluded to the fact that Somewhere in Time is my favorite Maiden album. And yeah, here he is. Here's Eddie on the front in all of his future. Can you see that on there?
I can.
All right, cool. Yeah, you know what? This is my favorite Maiden album, and I think it's really because it was the first Maiden album I ever heard.
Okay.
And this came out. I should know the year.
Isn't it like 86 or something like that?
86. Yeah, you're right. Good job. 86. That was the back cover. Produced by Martin Birch, who produced all their classic albums. It was the first Maiden album I ever heard. I remember having the cassette of this, and we were talking before how you fold out cassettes. I think the Somewhere in Time had a lot of folds to it. Like, it was really cool. And the cover, I mean, it's just got one of those covers. Maiden albums have great covers anyways, but the cover for this album is just amazing. There's so many little things to look at and so many hidden little, gems for your eye. The songs on here, though, I mean, this is like top tier Maiden. Caught Somewhere in Time, Wasted Years, which is an Adrian Smith song, phenomenal.
Killer.
Sea of Madness. Heaven Can Wait is the only song on here which is a little iffy for me. I think it's because the chorus, they repeat, heaven can wait, heaven can wait, heaven can wait. It seems to go on for like hours. But the verse to that tune is cool. The chorus is a little Side 2, though, Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, Kick Butt, Stranger in a Strange Land, Deja Vu, which is probably one of my favorite Maiden songs. And then it ends with the song that just still gets to me, Alexander the Great.
Oh.
Which is like a history lesson set to metal. And, a lot of people say Rime of the Ancient Mariner is their favorite epic song by Maiden, and that was off the album Power Slave, and that song is phenomenal. But for some reason, I like Alexander the Great sometimes just a little bit better than Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I think because it's a little shorter and a little bit more concise. I mean, this album, just with the whole futuristic concept, the sound of the guitars, they started to bring in some synth sounds on their guitars on this album.
Yes.
It's not as overblown as it was in the album that followed this. The album that followed this was called Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which is another album. But the synth guitars were really pronounced in that album. This is the album they just started to toy with that idea. But this brings me back to when I was a kid, and Iron Maiden was so exciting. But it was also thinking man's metal. Like, these are not songs about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, these are songs about history. They're poetic lyrics. I mean, these guys are smart guys. Bruce Dickinson, he's a smart guy. And talk about a guy who, I mean, he flies. Did you know that he flies there? He's a
pilot.
He's a pilot. He flies their plane to the countries that they play at.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about I think he also does. I'm having a brain fart here. What's the sport with the sword and you wear the mask?
Fencing.
Fencing. Thank you. I can't remember that. He does fencing as well. He's like the Renaissance man. Fencing and pilot and heavy metal singer and.
I mean, like, the song "Flight of Icarus" is kind of Renaissance-y too. Like,
yeah.
At least content-wise, not sonically.
Yeah, I mean, and I saw Maiden live, and they were awesome. And I like their latest releases, but I just go back to the classic stuff. I thought Brave New World was awesome, and when Blaze Bayley came in to sing with them, he did 2 albums with them. He did the X Factor, which is, to me, okay. I like their album with him that followed that called Virtual 11. That's a better album, I feel. And then Blaze Bayley went off and he did some solo records, which are phenomenal.
Yeah, you mentioned one recently, didn't you, in one of your videos?
Yeah. Well, I have his latest live album in the Czech Republic, which is awesome. But he did some great solo albums. So if you like that Maiden sound, check out Blaze's solo stuff. He was in a band called Wolfsbane, I want to say, before he joined Maiden.
Okay.
The problem was he just couldn't. He didn't have the vocal range for Maiden. That's the
Now,
problem.
those albums, if they didn't have the Maiden name on them, I feel like I would have enjoyed them better.
Right, right, yeah, because you listen to it and you're expecting to hear Bruce Dickinson and you're expected to hear those operatic vocals. And the X Factor is just—it's a really dark album. The
Oh,
production on it, the production on that album is very muddy. It's very dark. I want to say Steve Harris, the bass player, either he had gone through a divorce or a death in his family before writing that album. So I think that had, an effect on the writing.
okay.
Somebody's got to correct me on that because it was either a death in his family or a divorce or something. I don't know. There was something dark that happened that caused that album to be dark as well. But I digress. Somewhere in Time, phenomenal. My favorite Maiden album.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, they released Funko Pop figures of like Maiden
I
stuff.
have them. Yeah,
Okay, you have them all. Okay.
I have them all.
I only bought the Peace of Mind one because my favorite Maiden album, and I'm paying for my master's classes, so I can't be going crazy with buying. But
Well, listen, I shouldn't be buying it either, but I did.
true. Well,
I have no business. I have no business buying Maiden Funko Pop figures. I also have the Metallica ones, and I have 2 Johnny Cash ones.
I want the Johnny Cash ones.
And what's the other one I have? Metallica, Maiden. Oh, Kiss.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
have them on my dresser drawer. It's
Okay.
like, seriously, dude, like you're 45 years old and you have dolls on top of you in your bedroom. But you know what, Metal Mike? I really don't care.
Of course not.
I
It's
don't
Kit
care.
Kat. I wish I had seen Maiden in concert, which I guess if they haven't broken up yet, so I don't see why I can. Bruce could still sing, so
I think they have a new album in the planned, actually.
I
Yeah.
think they do too. But yeah, I got the Peace of Mind one. The only other Funko Pop one I have is like the green ghost guy with the chains from Scooby Doo. I can't remember what
Oh,
it's.
okay. Yeah.
I forget what he's called, but I know you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
I'm done with the Funko Pop figures though because I almost bought a Lemmy one and then I almost bought Alice Cooper one. I'm like, no,
Stop
you
while you're
gotta
ahead.
stop. Like seriously, dude, you've got 70 cassettes, 3,000 CDs, like 200 albums. You don't need to be getting into dolls now, too, because with my addictive personality, thank God I don't drink and I don't do drugs because it would not be good.
No.
I spend my money on music. That's what I spend.
I mean, me too. Yeah, I'm not a big. I don't have a lot of memorabilia stuff. I have the albums and all that stuff, but like I got the Maiden Funko Pop, the Scooby Doo one. I thought was cool, so
Yeah.
my girlfriend at the time got me it. I want to get the Johnny Cash one. I think it might be cool to have one or two others, but I'm not going crazy with that stuff.
No, yeah, I could see myself going down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, no, I'm not going there.
Yeah. All right. Fifth and final for me.
All right, yeah, because I've still got 2 honorable mentions I got to show.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. So, this album I discovered last year,
All right,
2019. And this is arguably one of the most played albums for me of 2019.
all right.
And I discovered it late 2019. We're talking late August, early September of 2019. So, like, to say it was my most played is kind of saying something.
Right.
This band only had 2 popular hits, but it wouldn't be until the 90s with the song Silent Lucidity that this group really got popular.
Yeah.
So, of course, now that I said the name of their most popular song, we all know I'm talking about Queensryche, but which Queensryche album am I discussing? Well, anybody.
Operation Mindcrime?
Oh, yes, Operation Mindcrime. Anybody who knows me,
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a concept album.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Holy. So the big hits off these ones were Eyes of a Stranger and what was the other one? I Don't Believe in Love.
Yeah, those are great songs.
Believe in love. Yeah. when
Back
I
when Jeff Tate could sing.
oh yeah, when I'm talking about Grail status, um, I found this cassette at Station One Records and Books in Jersey, here in Pompton Lakes. I'm talking here as if I live in Pompton Lakes. I don't. I live an hour away. But I
You
found
live in Jersey, right?
what's that?
You live in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is this was like $3 or $4 there, and for a cassette tape, obviously you're taking a gamble. But I was like, you know what? I want this album. I want it on physical media.
Yeah.
There's no problems with it. There's a slight thing like in one part of it where it's probably slightly stretched, but who cares? It was great. And
Yeah.
then it was my goal to get both Operation Mindcrime on CD and vinyl record. Vinyl record, when I say grail of all grails, that's one of my grail of all grails.
How much is that going for if you're going to get it?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they have a repress on vinyl record. I think it might only be the original pressings. But I was happy to find it on CD, and by find it on CD, I mean ask for it for Christmas and get it on CD. And I got this in Operation Mindcrime 2 this past Christmas because I was just streaming it and listening to it on cassette.
How is Operation Mindcrime 2 compared to that one?
The vocals are not as strong because of just like with like Rush with Geddy Lee. You get old, the vocals are not as great as they once were.
Right.
It was still good. A little bit darker, a little bit heavier. Do you know the story of Operation Mindcrime or the characters or anything in here?
No, not really. I didn't really get caught up in the story too much. I kind of just was into the music.
Okay, no, that's fine. So the Dr. X, I don't know who plays him in this album, but in the Operation Mindcrime 2 from, I believe it came out in 2006, Ronnie James Dio is
Really?
X.
I didn't realize that. I might have to get that album now.
And I mean, I was already wanting it because I wanted to hear part 2 to this album because there's holes in this album that are answered in part in that in an Operation Live Crime, the DVD of the live performance of both this and the second one back to back. I have not seen that or gotten a copy of that DVD yet, but I want it. But I did research on this album, so that's how I know the holes and what they are. But this, oh man, like this is fantastic.
I love that album.
The storyline is pretty much a guy named Nicky. Almost said Nicholas. I talk about Metropolis Part 2 too much. So Nicky, and he's struggling. He doesn't know where he is when he first wakes up. But the opening and closing lines of this album is him saying, "Now I remember," or something among those lines. Or "I remember now. I remember everything like it was yesterday," or something like that. He's recollecting what's happening because he gets pretty much hypnotized, I guess, or called, and yeah, he gets out. Here it is. He gets hypnotized by Dr. X whenever he hears the word mind crime. And then pretty much Dr. X can control Nicky and what he does. He's told to kill a priest and a lady named Mary who's in the church, Sister Mary. And he successfully does the priest in, spoiler, but he can't do it to Mary. He ends up actually falling in love.
Now that you're talking about this, I'm remembering reading those lyrics and hearing that narration. Yeah.
Right. And he falls in love with Mary and he can't do it. And then he now ends up wanting to go after Dr. X. He doesn't end up doing so or being successful in this album. He goes after it again in Operation Mindcrime 2. Is he successful? Is he not? I'll let you decide by listening to the album yourself. However, he goes to try to find Mary after that day, after that situation, and he finds her dead. No one knows why she dies until actually the DVD Operation Live Crime, the live footage. There's like a movie or something that they're playing behind them that tells a story.
Yeah.
You kind of get the idea from Operation Live Crime 2, the lyrics, but you have to dig deep to get them. I didn't get it until after I read the like Wikipedia page and the fandom pages and all that stuff to explain it. So she dies somehow. They hint at one of the ways that she might have died and what Nicky thinks how she died on this. However, it's not until Operation Mindcrime 2 that you learn the real reasoning. And you were talking about or asking me how is Operation Mindcrime 2? As I said, it was heavier. Ronnie James Dio is featured as Dr. X.
Yeah.
Some of the themes are a little darker, but with Nicholas kind of spiraling down because he's not happy with Dr. X controlling his life and all this stuff, and he was and all that, and all the anarchy.
Right.
So there's a lot of darkness and not drug use to my recollection. I'm still familiarizing myself with Operation Mindcrime 2. I'm not as familiar as I am with this one. This one I know a lot better. But he ends up going down a dark rabbit hole, and it just doesn't end well for Nikki, just as much as things didn't end well for Mary.
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you, even with all this trouble and darkness of it, there's some beautiful songs. I wish I had the other CD so I could name track lists
Yeah.
or songs to be able to give you reference points. But there's a song or two that it's Mary and Nikki just joining together in harmony, reuniting at the end of the album, and it's
Do
freaking
you know
beautiful.
who's singing the part of Mary, or?
I don't remember. I knew
Okay.
at one point, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, and it's I mean, it's an emotional album anyway because of how all the turmoil Nicky is having and how he's trying to go after Dr. X. But
Right. I'm gonna have to check out that second part because you said Dio's on there.
yeah, he plays Dr. X on the second
Does
one.
does he actually sing on the album, or?
Yep. Dr.
Sweet.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. X doesn't really sing on the first one. It's more talking parts. But
Yeah.
on Operation Mindcrime 2, Dr. X sings and Ryan James Dio is singing on it.
Well, I'm gonna have to definitely check that album out. Now you're really into concept stuff, then, huh?
Yeah.
It seems like you. Yeah. Have you ever heard King Diamond before?
I have not. I've heard of them, but I have not listened to them.
Yeah, you've got to listen to King Diamond. He's a metal artist. He used to sing for a band called Merciful Fate, but
Okay.
he does a lot of concept records, and I can see you're really into like the story. He's got some great stories. Two albums I would check out by him: an album called Them, which is a horror story,
Them.
Them, and an
Okay.
album called Abigail. And the his name is King Diamond, and the band goes by King Diamond as well. But he's got this really operatic high voice, and the
Okay.
music is phenomenal, and the story is like it just sucks you in. He's got a bunch of other albums, but I would start with Them and Abigail.
Well, I might have to put Europe on hold. You're sucking me in with the concept album thing here.
Dude, yeah, you're gonna get lost in the story. Like your parents are gonna be looking for you. They're gonna wonder where Metal Mike is, and they're gonna find you under your bed in the fetal position, sucking on your thumb, listening to King Diamond. Because I'm telling you, man, you are gonna get sucked into the story.
That's
You
amazing.
are. It's gonna happen.
I'm looking
No,
forward
but I'm
to it.
interested. We're gonna have to do a follow up because I want to know what you think about King Diamond.
Okay, I'll have to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the whole situation the world's in at the moment, I'm not proud to say I haven't been buying stuff from
No,
Amazon
that's
or
good.
my
Yeah.
local
Yeah.
record stores.
Good.
I'm not really supporting, but um, I'm not really buying anything new, so I'll be streaming it. But I do want to get that on physical format now.
Yeah. It's
I'm,
great stuff.
I mean, I haven't even heard it, and I already want it on physical media. So
Oh, it's great stuff. I've got two honorable mentions. I won't be too long because it looks like our video is almost like an hour and 20 minutes already. So, but my two honorable mentions. The first one is a band called Exodus.
I can't really see it. It's a little,
Yeah. Is it dark?
yeah, it's getting a little dark.
Let me see if I can get my flashlight on my phone here.
Okay, there we go.
Is
Oh, there we go.
that better?
Yep.
Exodus, Fabulous Disaster. This album, Exodus, should have been in the Big Four.
Okay, I have never listened to them. I've heard of them, but I've
Yeah,
never.
they're an awesome band. This came out on the Combat label in 1989,
Okay.
but it's just typical Bay Area thrash. Great songs. Their big hit off of here was a song called "The Toxic Waltz."
Okay.
Great song, but they also do a cover of the song "Lowrider."
Interesting.
And it's just a great album. Exodus is just a killer thrash band, and I talked about these guys. If you ever, because you have the big four, but if we talked about the big eight, Exodus should be inside of that group. I mean, they're that good. They're a really good band. And the other album I want to talk about is another band that would be in the big eight as well, and that's Overkill.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
And it's dark in my apartment. Sorry. This
No,
is their album called I Hear Black.
yep.
And I know Ron Haggerty is a huge Overkill fan.
He's
Do you
someone
follow
who,
Ron Haggerty on the BC?
I just got him on Instagram. I think we now follow each other on both of my Instagrams
Yeah, I
accounts.
mean, he listens to everything, but he's a huge Overkill
Yeah, I
fan.
think I saw he has a tattoo of the Overkill bat, I think, on his arm or something like that.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten a chance to check out his videos yet, but I want to.
this album is awesome. First of all, the actual album it's like a textured cover,
Okay.
and I just want to see what year this came out on.
That's early 90s, I think.
Yeah, I think this is a German repress. But this is their grunge album, for lack of a better term. They still kind of have the Overkill thrash sound, but it's sort of filtered through a grunge element. It's a really cool, dark album. Slower tempos, but groovy. They even do some sort of Sabbathy type stuff on this album.
Mhm.
It's my favorite Overkill album. I don't know. I don't think Ron would agree with me, but for me, this is my favorite Overkill album. I've never seen Overkill live, but this is definitely an honorable mention for me. And again, if you were going to take the big four and expand it to the big eight,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
you have to put Overkill there in there as well.
I would
So
agree.
Overkill, and Exodus are my two honorable mentions.
Yeah, I need to. I'm still plugging away at the Overkill discography, so I haven't heard everything yet. I have heard that one though.
Yeah,
I don't know what that one's not my favorite of them, but I definitely like that album a lot. And I'm
yeah.
looking.
Their album Years of Decay is really good.
Oh yeah, that
Uh,
one I heard too. I
yeah, they're a great band. I mean, Bobby Blitz on vocals, he can still sing, man. They're still releasing albums, and their newer albums are as good as
okay.
their early stuff.
I started at the beginning of the discography, so I haven't. I always
Yeah.
start from generally. Um,
They have a lot of albums too.
they do. I don't have any of them on physical media yet, but I will be.
Yeah, but definitely, if you like thrash, I would definitely check out Exodus and Overkill. I would also check out the band Death Angel. Death Angel is amazing.
Oh yes,
They're great.
actually, that was one that was recommended to me by Darcy at Six Strings Nine Lives as well.
Yeah, they have an album called Frolic Through the Park, which is just phenomenal. But man, I could go on and on. I mean, I could tell you so many bands to listen to.
Oh, I know, because you got me now looking at Public Enemy.
Right.
You got me looking at Europe.
Yeah.
Something Willie. I can't remember the name of the.
Painted Willie.
Yeah, that I have to look up now. I think I haven't gotten a chance to watch the video you put out.
Welcome to my sickness.
I haven't seen the video you put out today, but I'm sure there's a band in there that I'm going to have to talk about or look up now.
Yeah, I did a video today on the Sea Hags.
Okay.
They're a California band, sort of sleaze rock, similar to Rat and Faster Pussycat.
Okay.
Really good stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up, and I'll have to watch that video. That's I haven't watched YouTube today, so.
Yeah. Cosmic Brian and I were kind of getting into it because I thought I'm friends with this. I subbed to this guy, Dan Cassette Mayhem, I think is his YouTube name. And I thought he introduced the Sea Hags to me, but then Cosmic Brian said, no, I think I introduced you to the Sea Hags. But then I sent an apology video out, and then Cosmic Brian writes me back. He goes, dude, you're going to hate me. It wasn't me who told you about the Sea Hags. So I still don't know who the heck told me about the Sea Hags.
Oh, no.
I mean, maybe it came to me in a dream. I have no idea. But I have the album now, so.
Yeah, it came to you in a dream.
I got to listen to that. I got to listen to Queensryche again. I haven't listened to them in a long time.
Yeah.
I also know I need better lighting the next time we do this.
That's okay.
I'm like in the dark here, literally.
It's okay. It could be worse.
This has been fun, man.
Absolutely. I'm glad you were able to join.
I had no idea what you were going to pull out. I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we had some of the same artists, but I'm glad we picked different albums.
Yeah, it's not like me and Dylan at the Record Spinner where we keep pulling out the same ones over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think with prog, it's probably easier to pick the same albums because I think it seems like everybody has their same prog albums that they all like. Like everybody goes to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway for Genesis, and everybody goes to like Close to the Edge for Yes, and or Tales from Topographic Oceans, or I think people have similar prog albums, but I think when it comes to metal, it's a little bit more diverse.
Yeah, without a
I
doubt.
don't know. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I would have to say you're right.
Yeah.
Even though Close to the Edge is not my personal preference for a Yes
It's
album,
not mine either. My favorite is Tales from Topographic Oceans.
mine is Drama.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that. I also like Relayer too.
That's probably in my top 5 Relayer.
Drama is an album I've listened to a few times. I have to listen to it again though. There's some good stuff on there.
I agree. But anyway,
yeah, this isn't a prog discussion.
Yes. So thanks to Chris for joining me. We are now musically obsessed, even more than we were. And if you guys weren't, well, now you might be. I know there are some people who I've talked to personally into VC that I've been wanting to delve a little bit deeper into metal or first discover metal for the first time. So, well, here you go. So, thanks again to Chris for joining me. Keep that record spinning, as Dylan over at the record spinner always says. I unintentionally stole his line. Keep on spinning that wax. That's my line. And I'll see you in the next Vinyl Record video.